Hi everyone, Wonia Tebow here with Buckskin Revolution, and it is August right now in California, so it's a great time to be making jerky because exactly what we need for that process is what the environment is providing, right? Really hot, really dry, really good conditions to dry meat really quickly, so might as well take advantage and use this time of year for making our jerky if you've got meat to use. So I was up until late last night cutting up a lot of the big muscles of a deer to turn into jerky. This video, however, is about what to do with the smaller cuts that are a lot harder to get a nice slice on, like some of the funky bits of meat that are over the ribs, or the smaller muscles from the lower forelegs of the deer that have a lot of gristle and are really hard to get a nice slice on going across the grain. What to do with all of these leftover pieces is a great topic. If you have a meat grinder, that's a really good way to go because you can actually grind it and then spread that nicely ground meat onto a screen and then dry it that way in a big sheet. Really great for making pemmican because then you can break it up and get it into really small pieces. But what are you gonna do if you don't have a meat grinder, which is the case for me right now? So I wanna show you a cool technique if you have access to a freezer. So here is a funky strip of meat, would be really hard to cut into nice thin pieces. What I'm going to do instead is roll it up and put it in a container that is cylindrical or tall and narrow. And what I'm essentially doing is I'm making a well-constructed meatsicle for the freezer. So I'm taking all of these small bits of muscle or pieces that are just odd shapes for cutting into jerky, and I'm packing them so that the grain is running with the length of the container. So the grain of the muscles is going this direction. And I'm packing all of these pieces in there so that they are going to form a nice unit together. So very conscientious about the direction of the grain as I am packing this. And then I'm going to put it in the freezer and I'm going to let it get not quite all the way frozen because it's really hard to, chop a totally frozen ice block. Packing this all together into a nice solid wad, a cylinder of meat with the grain all running the same way. And then I'm going to freeze it and turn it into a partially frozen meatsicle. Then I can warm the outside, run some hot water around the outside, pop it out of the container, and then I can slice long pieces across the grain of the whole unit together, which would be so much harder for all of the small bits. And then I'm going to have a lot of nice thin pieces that I can lay out on a screen to turn into jerky. Hi everyone. Well, my meatsicle has set up. It froze real nicely and then I had to defrost it a little bit, so we'll see if it is the properly frozen amount. But it is time to go ahead and make jerky out of my nicely constructed cylindrical meatsicle. So check out how I made a solid hunk of deer meat out of a bunch of little muscles, and now it is in a great state to be slicing really nice and thin like I want for jerky. So I'm just gonna slice through this as thin as I can, treating the whole thing as a unit. It's of course gonna fall apart. It's not actually attached, so I'll have to lay these out as separate pieces, but you can see how I got a nice thin slice there, way thinner than I could have gotten had it been just mushy thawed meat. A good sharp knife, and I'm in business. This is a nice carbon steel knife, freshly sharpened. I want to say it cuts through it like butter, but it's like frozen butter, right? That's the whole idea, because butter is hard to get really good slices off of. Some of the edges were a little thawed, so I'm gonna refreeze those. I know you're not supposed to refreeze meat, but when you're making jerky out of it, it isn't a problem. The reason you're not supposed to thaw and then refreeze meat is because that process breaks down the cell walls. But when you're making jerky, that's actually good because it helps it dry faster. So I've got all of this lovely jerky cut, and now it's time to get it drying. Great way to make usable jerky out of those tiny little bits and pieces that otherwise would be super hard and obnoxious to cut.